Hit subscribe to the DIY Writer to support your hardworking authors and also lessen your chances of ending up as a victim in their next book. The world's largest UFO conference, Contact in the Desert, announces the launch of their 8th annual and very first virtual event. This event is focusing on UFOs and the year of science, also consciousness and the future. This will be held June 24th to 28th, 2021. Contact in the Desert is renowned for its top lineup of experts in the fields of ufology, forbidden archaeology, government disclosure, alien phenomenon, crop circles, and much more. Contact in the Desert already is the largest UFO conference in history and will now be the largest UFO conference in the virtual world, with over 60 lectures, 40 workshops, 11 panels, featured speakers presentations, virtual tours to Giant Rock, and other interactive events. Go to contactinthedesert.com for more information and get your tickets now. This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast, and today we've got Merri Halma. Merri has written the Indigo Travelers series. That's a series of 3 books, and it sounds like she might have a 4th one coming out, but she also has a companion traveler and maybe another book that we might want to talk about. So we're going to hit it all very quickly. Merri, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jeff. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's my pleasure. What can you tell me about your series?
Well, my series is about 3 friends and their magical, mythical animal companions, and the adventures they go on as and the adventures they go to other worlds. They learn more about who they are as individuals, as teens, and it's a growing up, coming of age stories, but they're helping other people in the world as well as learning more about who they are and how they fit in the world. And the animals also have, well, at least one of the animals has a learning curve too.
Okay.
So the animals learn something. So the first book starts off with Alexander Vey. He goes by Xander mostly. In the first book, Indigo Travelers and the Dragon's Blood Sword, I can show is this one. And so he gets his cat brings in a griffin encased in stone. Xander has a gift of hearing other people's thoughts, and often it's their deeper worries and concerns. Xander hears it so loudly that sometimes he thinks it's his own thoughts, and so he ends up blurting out what he's hearing. This is all before he learns how to shield himself. So in the first book, he has to learn the shields. He doesn't know why he has this gift. He sees it as a curse. The griffin, when Xander holds the griffins, he can tell that the griffin is still alive, even though it's encased in stone. And the griffin opens up to him a whole new world that's being torn apart by war. And that world, Kura, is looking for the prophesied Indigo traveler who will remind the errant Manspan king what the dragon sacrificed in order for his people to survive.
Okay.
the kingdom. The second book is Indigo Travelers and the Keys to the Shadowland. That's this one. And the now Xander is going back. Xander Milo, whom he reconnected with in Kira, go back to, are called back to Kira, and they bring with them their friend Sarah Johnson, who her journey is just beginning. She just keeps seeing spiders in her dreams and whatnot, and she hates spiders. She's terrified of them, but the spiders are so real. And she doesn't, she feels like an alien, like she's just kind of dropped in to the world of Nampa, and she doesn't really belong. But she feels at home with Xander and Milo. And the Jeffrey, who the Griffin comes back to also alert them that they need assistance in there, because the apparition, Armaspian king, has now pretty much secluded himself, and he's refusing to rule. His children are having to try to rule the kingdom, and they're still really young. So they, and then the king goes comatose, goes into a deep coma, because the self-appointed Raven judge of the Shadowlands sucks his soul out and puts it into a world of illusion called the Shadowlands. So the teens have to go to the Shadowlands in order to find King Tidus' soul and bring it back to his body. And that's full of dangers. Xander goes in full bodied, so he's going to feel the brunt of the illusions that are put forth in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be endangering his own psyche. The third book is The Indigo Travelers and the Lost Murdoch Princess. This one is on about the teens as they're coming back from Kira. Jeffrey the Griffin gets blown off course. Two portals open up, and they get blown off course. Sarah, who's still seeing the spiders, is trying to push the spiders away, and in so doing, she ends up falling off Jeffrey's back, and Xander's trying to save her. So he leans over too far, and he falls off with her. Sarah has a paracord wrist, magical paracord wrist on her wrist that was given to her by the new healer from the in the village of the Minotaurs and Griffins. So she's visualizing what they need, pulls the cord, and a parachute opens up to help them land. and Sarah finds herself in her birth world that she didn't know.
Okay.
So she gets reacquainted with why she's seeing the spiders and why the spiders are trying to befriend her. Then the companion book is the first of the companion books is Lynx on Fire. Lynx is my werecat, and he's my one character that inserts himself in books that I had no plans for him to be in. And so when he turned up in Sarah's story, I realized that there was more to Lynx's story than him just being a mischievous, shape-shifting feline who needed thumbs so he could open his own milk. so, so he has to face who he really is and what his true shape is supposed to be. Right now, he looks like a Maine Coon, and he's comfortable with this image, but he also knows that he was found in under a pile of burning wood, a wagon. He was told it was a wagon. He has to find out what's happening, and as he's looking into this bonfire at the high school, he begins to see images of a cub, a werecat cub called Runt, he was being brutally teased and bullied by his older brother, and the older brother is trying to chase him out. Most runts are turned out from the litter early anyway, and so the older brother is taking advantage of the parents being gone and trying to turn out the runt. And and as he's doing this, the brother picks him up by the scuff of the neck, throws him against a wall, knocks him out, and the runt spirit rises up and leaves and goes over a family of bears, and the oldest bear cub looks up and sees Runt's spirit, and he says, "Look, Dappa, it's a werecat spirit. We need to rescue it and solve it so it goes back to the creators." And his dad backpaws him and says, we are the gods of this world. There are no other gods. And how dare you mention that humans creative God? You know, it's heretical. But the bear cub is still intent on finding this runt, finding this cub and helping it. And his dad says werecats don't have souls, they're all demons. So Lynx is continually fighting the image of being a demon. First he was a demon in Kira when he got thumbs, and then he's more of a demon because allegedly werecats don't have souls. And so it's basically between the bear and lynx, and this bear cub grows up, ends up in the world of Nampa, learns somehow that Lynx and Jeffrey are living in that world too, and he excuse me, he remembers Lynx, and he doesn't remember anything about the world they came from, the original world.
Okay.
So it's those two battling, and their wayward otter decides that he is going to warn Lynx that this bear god is trying to harm him, and he's trying to protect him. So the otter gets Lynx to go through the portal, and the bear chases them through the otter, and all the animals, all of Xander's animals, even the house cat, ends up in the other world. So that
very cool. So the next book that you're writing, is that another episode of the Indigo Travelers then, or?
it's another companion book.
Okay.
All of the characters are in it. The house cat, not so much. Originally, the house cat was going to play a bigger role in the series, and maybe travel with them, but that didn't turn out to be doable. So he's more of a very minor character. So it's called Ian Temple and the Search for the Wisdom Trees, and we're back to a 13-year-old teenage boy, and he's known from an early age that that the trees are calling to him, and he remembers even when he was in the crib hearing the call and finding ways to go out into the forest and look for the source of the call. His parent, he has the ability to turn himself invisible, and his parents told him that he can transport himself before he could walk. He would transport himself from this crib into whichever room he wanted to be into and back. And Ian doesn't remember this. So it's Sarah's, it begins working with him, because Sarah's also has a bonding with the banyan tree. And it's the banyan trees that are calling to Ian. So she begins teaching him more about meditation, and then how to get reacquainted with his gifts and start using them. She notices that when he's riding his bike to the park, Lakeview Park here in Nampa, and he's trying to avoid the cars, because cars usually don't they see a bicyclist as as an annoyance, and especially if the bike is trying to share the shoulder with them. And so Ian unconsciously is lifting his wheels off the ground and flying. And he doesn't realize he's doing this. Sarah lets him know. So then he's trying to find out how he consciously get the bike to excuse me, to fly. So, and he's going to be going through a portal too.
Okay. So I also see that you wrote another book. It looks like a short horror fiction.
Yeah.
The Haunting of Powell Hall.
Yep.
Okay. What about that?
This one is it's a novella, and it's there, there's a young college student, freshman, named Crystal, and she's engaged to be married, and this is World War II, and her fiance goes enlists and goes to fight in the war, and everyone at the school, they don't believe that she's actually engaged because they don't meet him, and
Okay.
so and she's kind of homely. She doesn't really she doesn't dress in the proper fashion, so and her parents kind of want her to forget this this boy anyway, because he is Native American, and
Sure.
so anyway, he gets killed, and it just, she gets crushed, and no one, there's a few people that understand him and believe her, but everyone else is just pretty heartbroken, and the boy's parents don't really know how to tell her either, and so they don't want to talk about it. But she finally she just can't take it, so she throws herself off the very top of Powell Hall,
Okay.
and her spirit becomes tied in. So in roughly 60 years, 60, 70 years, it a Native American graduate student goes to the university as he's a graduate student getting his MFA in poetry, and he's a teaching assistant. He's taking his girlfriend into Powell Hall. He has an office there, so Powell Hall is no longer a dormitory. It has now been transformed to offices. There's a few other classrooms in there, some sections. The forensics has a lab. So it's night, and Mark is taking his girlfriend in to Powell Hall. He's opening the doors, and she's looking at all the shadows, and the moonlight shines, and the different things are moving. And as soon as they go in, he's turning off the lights, and he starts calling Crystal. And Mark loves to tell stories, so he thinks Crystal is just another story. But Crystal comes and to and she's looking at him, and he looks just like her Mike, her fiance, that she's been waiting all this time for. So she keeps calling him Mike, and he says, "No, I'm Mark." Well, Mark is a Native American, and here's part of him that was supposed to be training to be a medicine man. He chose to go the education route. He wants to kind of live both. And Crystal gets really jealous of his girlfriend, Erin, and it comes down to how is he going to put Crystal's spirit to rest, and then he has to put her spirit to rest, otherwise Crystal is going to kill his girlfriend. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's just find a way to lure her to throw herself off. So this, and Crystal's also trying to get him to throw himself off to join her. I won't say anymore.
No, I wouldn't give away like that, but well, very cool. So you got those, and you got another book coming out soon, or in the next year or so, or 2021, 2022, whatever. Just kind of curious. Do you have anything you want to say to your readers right now, or anything like that?
If you ever felt different, if you ever felt like you really don't belong, my series is for you, because it helps you to realize you do belong, but to look for your differences to be blessings. Look for how to use those differences to become your strength and not a weakness. Be happy for who you are. And everyone has faced bullies, and there's always a way to forgive the bully and move on, and not just to be angry about how people treat you. I've heard good reviews about all of my books. A lot of the readers a lot like my writing, because it's there's always a happy ending. I don't have any strong violence. I don't use, so it's pretty clean too. The older teens grow up throughout it, and they're always learning. They do have some adult guidance, and it's a way to learn. I talk about meditation skills, and a lot of these are based upon the meditations that I've done to help me through rough points too. And I'm my research, I'm pretty sure that other people use these skills. So it's not all, it's fantasy, but I feel that there's more truth in fiction than there is truth in nonfiction, like memoirs, because there's creative memoirs where the author who's writing it has to fill in some of the gaps, by guessing what happened, because their memory is not as clear as they thought, unless they really had all the detailed journals of every incident.
Nope, I can agree with that. Not only that, memoirs are usually written in such a way to maybe prove a point, but also don't defend or anything else, because a situation may be way worse than what you portray them in your memoirs, especially from your own single point of view.
Right.
I always tend to look at them like, you're only the hero in your story. You might have been the villain in somebody else's.
True.
Like, I try and be the villain in everybody's, just for fun. It's much better. I'm a big Joker fan, so anyway. Well, very good. I'm very glad to meet you. I'm glad that your books seem to be doing well. And the points that you make about meditation is important, because whether you call it meditation, praying, or whether you call it just that time to yourself to reflect on what's going on is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, true. Oh yeah, yeah.
It really is. So I mean,
Uh-huh.
however you want to phrase it, it's something that everybody should at least take a look at and see if they can't find some
And
peace somewhere.
oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. And meditation's not always closing your eyes and saying Om. It's a writing meditation. It's being able to get out what's bothering you and finding a way to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to say, in I I speak to my soul a lot, and so I bring my soul into my issues, and I bring spirit into the issue, and I'm like, help me, help us, solve this with me, so it's not all spirit's not doing all the whole work,
Sure.
but we're working together, and that's it's the journey within.
Yep. That's important. That's important.
Hmm.
I want to thank you very much for your time today, Merri.
And thank you.
No problem. And if you are interested, you should buy the box set of the Indigo series so you can catch up by the time Merri releases her next book. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to the DIY Writer Podcast. And if you would, please have a great day and keep your chin up. Things are getting better. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You bet.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber, and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me, please.